Our vision is for Tampa to be recognized as a city of arts internationally and actually building more spaces for creatives to live here, work here.
How do you do that?
We do that with and we are at the precipice of that. And we got very fortunate with Daryl Shaw in Ybor. He had a space on 3rd Avenue. That is a place where artists can afford to live.
Wow, that is unbelievably exciting. And another point towards Ybor City, how it's really becoming this creative and cultural hub.
There is a lot of intrinsic worth for developers to look at the arts. Literally, when you begin to incorporate arts and nonprofits into your developments, you unlock permitting options, increase walkability scores, 20% increase in surrounding spaces and rent, 50% more likely for having outdoor seating permits. There's so much that's unlocked when you specifically create cultural spaces.
But for someone that just owns one particular property, what can they do to be a part of this arts and culture scene?
First of all
right, what's up, everybody? Today we're hanging out with Michele Smith, who's the president and CEO of the Tampa Arts Alliance. Michele, welcome.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Thank you for being here today. We're going to talk about the relationship between city living and the arts and development and growth. And I feel like we've danced around these subjects, but it's nice to have an expert in here to talk about how these things are all interconnected.
Thanks.
So we were just rolling through sort of the headline piece for the show today, which is the Downtown Arts Center.
Mm-hmm.
And judging from the renderings, this looks like a really, really cool space where you could feature local artists or other artists from the nation. And what a location on where is it? Right across from
It's the corner
Lakes.
of Main and Main, really.
Yeah.
It's right across from Lakes Gaslight Park on the corner of Tampa and Kennedy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And what is the Downtown Arts Center?
So we're very grateful to Farley Wright Interest, who are the owners of the tower, the Fifth Third Tower. They have a ground floor space, about 5,000 square feet, and we worked out an agreement for us to occupy it for 5 years at a substantial underwriting gift of about $1.2 million, so that we could actually go in there and focus just on operations and programming. And it is intended to be a showcase for our local talent. So there isn't really that dedicated space yet in Tampa, and especially not one in an area with so much density. We want to reach the walkers, the people, the residents. According to the Downtown Partnership's last study, there's 65,000 workers in downtown.
Wow.
25,000 residents. And their guides did counts of millions of people on the sidewalk.
Wow.
Coming in from the conventions, through the port, all of that.
And so so it sounds like a gallery space with offices, correct?
No offices.
No
it's
offices.
Just purely a showcase. So we are going to have a movable grid system it's intrinsically going to be best as a gallery space, but we want to focus on our mission is on promoting the entire arts ecosystem, which includes film, literary arts, performing arts. So the space itself, there's a couple of pictures of the interior you can see. It's just beautiful.
Main and Main, you're right. Look at that. All that glass. Very cool. And so people walking by can see different, installations, or maybe there's a movie, for example, being filmed here in Tampa. They could set up a little moment within this space, right?
I love that.
Something
we'll work
like
with
that.
Film Tampa Bay on that.
Yeah.
Make sure that we're a venue.
100%. The vault. What's the vault? Was that an old bank vault?
Yes.
Oh my
absolutely.
gosh. What's the plan there?
We're turning it to a space called Safe. And during the day for workers and residents to come down, it's going to be programmed with really fantastic art video installations.
Cool.
Some anti-gravity chairs, a place to just kind of have a little bit of respite from the day. I used to work in the Sykes building, and sometimes I would just go down in my car for a nap because it just went like a moment to just kind of center yourself and step away from everything. And this is kind of a great alternative to that. And then during events and other times we can program that space. It's a really cool, it's a actual safe. But
yeah, it should be nice and quiet in there, right?
Well, during the day we'll have like hand counseling, noise counseling, headphones, meditations you can play if you want to actually have an active meditation for like 20 minutes and get yourself the nervous system regulated from the day. And then go back into your work or just see some beautiful art.
Very, very cool. And so it says, you're next to City Hall, City Council, Board of County Commissioners, Tampa
Mhm.
EDC, Tampa Bay Chamber, and much more. So the goal here, let's talk about the Tampa Arts Alliance, right? We were talking just a little bit before we went live about what it is. It's to sort of connect elected officials, government, businesses, and then artists, and then any sort of, I guess you consider, movie making art, theater is art, music, all of it.
All
And
of it.
so it's to promote a cultural community here in the city, right?
Yes, our vision is for Tampa to be recognized as a city of arts internationally. And so there are steps to get to that, and the biggest step is infrastructure and actually building more spaces for creatives to live here, work here, afford to continue to be here with all the development, especially in the urban core, is really important. But yes, that's our goal. We have a lot of organizations that have been, existing and arts leaders within Tampa who have really been building up a phenomenal scene. With public art, we have the city of Tampa, their public art collections, over 800 pieces that they manage. And they've really been great about making sure that we have great public art here. We've got the Arts Council of Hillsborough County, which focuses a lot on seed money for artists and for organizations. They've seeded our festivals like Gasparilla Festival, Music Festival, the Festival of the Arts. Like those are really important agencies, and we're just kind of like connective tissue to bring awareness to what's been happening here.
Hmm.
One of our big pillars of focus is inventory and looking at the data and looking at the math of what's here. We have mapped already over 200 cultural spaces to visit in Tampa.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah, it seems it's like thinking about what makes a place cool. So much of it centers around the arts in general, right? It's like that's entire districts in big cities are centered around arts and culture, whether it's a theater district in London or Broadway in New York, right? Like these iconic moments. You don't have to be in New York City. You shouldn't have to be in New York City to enjoy those places that make you feel, I don't know, something unique and special.
Yeah,
So it's and I think that Tampa being at, we're in one of the, in Tampa Bay really in general, being one of the fastest growing regions in the country, we kind of have this awesome moment to fully express the arts, and get more
absolutely.
creative people to move here. Creative people, they bring all the good, interesting businesses and the
The
different types of
innovation.
restaurants, the innovation and
Yeah.
technology, right? It's like those types of creative and ambitious people are so important to the success of a community.
Yes. And we have a lot that have been living here and building up spaces already
Oh
because that's
yeah.
kind of what makes us so attractive to development is the spark of seeing, oh, there's something interesting going over there. How can we expand that? How can we grow on that? So we also want to make sure that we're being able to retain these folks to stay here and to keep working and to keep creating and creating culture. And it's intrinsic, how our city started. This is not new for Tampa. We've always been a creative city.
Hmm.
When you look at the social clubs in Ybor, they've had theaters. Music was a part of their daily life. It wasn't like the arts, it was just how they lived.
100%.
You look at Central Avenue and the amazing, talent that came through. It wasn't about the arts. It was resilience. It was expressing life. It was growth.
And there is something very intrinsic about walking down Central Avenue in St. Petersburg. It kind of gives you this really, I think, warm feeling because of just the diversity of different types of coffee shops and businesses. It's
Mm.
really, really cool. We don't have a fully expressed version of Central Avenue in Tampa. And downtown used to be that, right? Like Franklin Street in downtown kind of was our main street.
Or our own Central Avenue
Right.
prior to Jim Crow era. I mean, poppin',
Literally Central Avenue, right? Which is
literally.
where kind of Encore starts and moves north through the Heights.
Mhm.
But yeah, we've lost that along the way.
Yeah.
And it's so important as we grow because I think we've all been to those developments, in the mid 2000s that were all sort of the same paint color and had the same restaurant chains. And,
Yeah.
on paper, it's cool. And, you're making money from those developments and everything pencils out. And yeah, fine. But what's the feeling you get when you visit a place like that.
Right.
It's sort of bland, in my opinion. You know, that's we've actually talked a lot about the authentic nature to urban landscapes as it relates to the new Rays stadium, and
Mm,
how Ybor City would have really provided that super unique experience where someone going to a ballpark could walk outside and sort of be in this interesting area with these brick buildings and the stories and
and the
the
history.
history and everything. And if you build it where HCC is and try to replicate that, it's going to be really difficult to do. And what you're going to most likely end up with is something like the Battery in Atlanta, which again is
Mhm.
fine, and there's business and it's all good. But, you know, you got the Buffalo Wild Wings and all these typical chains, and there's nothing unique at that development that you couldn't necessarily find in other areas around the country. You know, so in the same example, it doesn't have to be a ballpark, right? It could be a particular district, but that authentic nature where people can start businesses and be creative, and they're not boxed into a certain feel and a certain
Yeah.
look, and they're allowed to express their creativity. That's what makes a place like Central Avenue
But
just
it
really
takes
cool.
so much planning and cross-sector collaboration for that to happen,
Mm,
as we see. And it's challenging, and I just really applaud all the different efforts that have been made to, and I do think that there's going to be a huge economic stimulus to having a sports district. And if, especially if we can get ourselves together with transportation and get some of those folks pumped over into our creative districts,
mhm.
then that's great. But yeah, you're right. It's to be able to have design, that design maturity is something. I think it's the leading edge for Tampa now. And I think a lot of our bigger developments are beginning to demonstrate how that's possible, what Vinnick did with Water Street, and showing what it's like to be able to go to Benchmark and then step outside, and the energy on the streets and the lights, and you can go over to Edition and buy a drink and be fancy for the night, or you can, take a water taxi and enjoy. There's just so much that's been built around that that provides a full experience.
Mhm.
So we're getting the taste,
Yeah.
you
Yeah, I
know?
mean, the HCC site, I guess, economically is great. I would just be happy kind of at the end of the day to have the team over in Tampa, especially if you could connect that area to downtown. You know, if you could
Mhm.
get some sort of a shuttle system or a permanent fixed streetcar or a,
Or maybe there's an opportunity to fill in a cultural desert. So when you look at our map, that area outside of the campus of Dale Mabry
mm,
doesn't have a lot going on in investment in arts and culture. And the Rays have historically been very supportive of the arts. So maybe there's an opportunity to increase some programming either on campus or in the periphery. This is the way we're thinking now with design, these complete opportunities for experience, and how
mm.
we can do that on some scale level at everything that we build.
Even the ballpark itself,
Hmm.
right? The ballpark itself could be an artistic expression that's very unique. And
Yes,
every time you look at it, it could invoke that intrinsic kind of value we're talking about, you know, where it creates a
absolutely.
special moment just by existing.
Mhm.
You know, yeah, when you look at this map, you're right. Although, you know, it kind of makes sense that our urban core, right, our downtown, the actual city would host the most attractions, right? It's where the density is. But
Exactly.
you're absolutely correct. That area, that would be MLK and Dale Mabry,
Mhm.
it is a little empty. You've only got a couple things over there.
Yep. A couple
And
little galleries.
you know, I mean, if they move forward with that development, there's going to be a lot more people living in that area, and they're going to want those attractions. You know,
Yeah.
we can't expect everyone to hop in a car and go to downtown. You know, you sort of have to spread that, you know, art everywhere if you
Yeah.
can. And so, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, too, the opportunity for Hillsborough College. That was where I went after high school for the first 2 years of my degree. And I went to Tampa Bay Tech, graduated from Academy of Health. I was a health nerd. I was going to go into dental. And then I started doing clinicals, and I was like, oh, I don't like this. So I went to HCC and started dabbling in the arts. I went through all of it, through dance, through theater, because it was so affordable. I could do that at 19. And the exposure of those formative years to the arts made a huge impact on my career path because I had access to it. So even a development like that, how that can seed more of the arts in
Mm.
that kind of way is really important.
Yeah, I didn't think about it even from an education perspective, right? It's like with this new deal with the ballpark, HCC could get uh, basically an entire new campus potentially, right? New buildings, more funds to hire teachers and create more curriculum for students.
Yeah.
So, are you? I'm sure you are familiar, but with USF and UT and some of the and HCC, some of these institutions that we have, would you say that the arts are spread out between those higher education facilities, or like you just said, is
hmm
HCC pretty high concentration in the arts?
HCC is doing a wonderful job. What I love about the education scene here is at every level of income, there is access to really good quality stuff. And the curators that are making up and kind of picking these things in the visual sector, and as well, I think in the performing sector, they all connect with each other. So you're not getting this experience of the arts being super highbrow and inaccessible.
Mm,
I finished my degree at University of Tampa, and I am so proud to be a Spartan. And the exposure I got there, I did my international business degree and then fine art. And it was, again, extremely transformative. We recently joined Visit Tampa Bay at the London Art Fair, and specifically, we're sharing about the collection scene here and our wonderful education. So, University of Tampa is actually partnering with us, the Downtown Center, to be a bit of a satellite location. So, helping us with programming
mm,
and with just getting our feet on the ground, really. They've been incredibly generous, and their art program is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. The Furman Center for the Arts, state of the arts, with theaters, with music, with concerts. There are Sonora, their beautiful chapel there. I mean, like that's stuff that you see in Europe,
right.
and we have it right in our backyard, and it's accessible. The University of South Florida, their MFA program, world renowned graphic studio, the
Wow.
Contemporary Art Museum, they are known all over the place. You go to Venice Biennale, they know graphic studio. Rauschenberg got his start there. So we have these like amazing gems of provenance within Tampa, which you don't really associate or don't really know
Sure.
about. But when you start mapping it out and looking at the data and looking at the information, it's a really impressive picture.
And then taking that further, the goal with what you do and other organizations that are centered around this, how do you keep those students who graduate to stay here, right? How do you encourage them to stay and be a part of this whole growth and
Yeah.
development and express more of their artistic side? So, how
Mhm.
do you do that?
That's the trick. That is the trick because we have an immense amount of talent, and it's really funny as they're starting to come back. A lot of the talent that
Mm,
began to move away in the early 2000s, they're seeing the potential here. So we do that with infrastructure. They need places to work. They need to be able to make a living. They need places to display their art, to perform their art. There needs to be a creative economy that is self-sustaining and has legs underneath it. And we are at the precipice of that. And involving a lot of the private community as well has been incredibly important because you have developers and you have private entities that are seeing the value of this and the best practices of community building and are beginning to invest in the arts. But we need to have really strong agency around building more infrastructure.
mm.
Yeah.
And so one of the renderings you sent me was it looked like an apartment building.
hmm
So talk about that. Is that kind of what you're explaining, where it's this
Yes.
community, this residential project
hmm
for artists? Is that
Yeah.
what it is?
Yeah. It's a start. So, that is a project that was developed by some art leaders who were like, we really need to have a place where artists can afford to live because rents have
Mm,
skyrocketed
right.
in Tampa. And so they got together. They hired Art Space Projects, which is the national leader of building these kinds of art buildings and creating communities. I think they have like 58, 59 projects around the country. They're really skilled in how to do this. So they engaged them to come and take a look and to do a study within our city to find out if there was both the appetite for it and the demand for it and the possibility for it. And the interest was unprecedented. I think it was like the second highest survey they had ever in their existence was what the interest came from Tampa.
Wow.
So those leaders said, okay, look, we've reached a point where we can't really go any further because to engage art space, we need to raise $750,000 and we can't really do that. Can you take this project on? And the Tampa Arts Alliance had just started. we had we're not funded by any kind of municipality or public dollars. We are completely self-sustaining and self-funded at the moment. And so it was tricky because it was like, it's a big responsibility. It's a $30 million project you're talking about, and we're just getting started. But we couldn't let that momentum die. So we took it on, the obligation of finding those funds so that we can do due diligence and locating a site. And we got very fortunate with Daryl Shaw in Ybor, who has a lot of our board members for years have been taking him around to different developments throughout the Bay Area and showing what's possible and how the arts affect development and how they're a huge catalyst for, for development and for income economics and for quality of life. He totally got it that he had a space on 3rd Avenue and said, okay, I can commit this site to you all while you go ahead and get started with your due diligence and build plans. So the Alliance went to work and raised that $750,000. The bulk of it came through from the city. There is a motion that was made by Councilwoman Hurtak to allocate from the budget in 2024, I believe it was, a chunk of that money to for due diligence and for getting this project to its next level. And there was near unanimous agreement on council. And then as well, the city staff has been phenomenal. So you had both the administration and council that were really are behind this project and incredibly supportive of it. And so it's a direct agreement between Daryl Shaw and Arts-Based Projects. The Alliance, we have just been incubators of interest and connectors and spurring this on to make sure it happens. But that's where it stands right now. So they are now working on, the phase 1 kind of stuff of the development.
Wow, that is unbelievably exciting. And
Mhm.
another point towards Ybor City, how it's really becoming this creative and cultural hub, right? It already has it really is the kind of the cultural epicenter of the city and really of the region. Cigar City, right? All those old stories that have come out of that area. But moving forward, and really in the last few decades also, you have a ton of creative people that have moved in.
Yeah.
And then you also have A Land Remembered, this new huge TV show that's being filmed, is headquartered in Ybor City. And then what's on 7th Avenue? Is it Crest Contemporary?
Yeah, so that's that's a development with a lot of good potential. So I toured the building with Daryl when he was thinking about creating a hub, artistic hub, and it's a really phenomenal place of activity right on 7th Avenue, Crest Contemporary. There's 35 artists and small organizations that are all have divvied up the space. There's event space there now. It's just a really great collective of energy. It's been fantastic programming to bring down 7th Avenue because the hours are a little bit earlier than the typical traffic on 7th Avenue. So it's a
Hmm.
really great optic for demonstrating what's possible, for really utilizing that space throughout the whole entire day, throughout the whole entire week. And it's just a really beautiful building in general. If you haven't been there yet, I definitely recommend. It reminds me of up north, like in Boston or in DC, like it has like all these levels and these beautiful wood floors. And it was a Crest building, so it used to be a department store. But in the near term, it was more of a customs. It was U.S. Customs building. So when you went in, there was like nasty blue carpet and cubicles still throughout the space. And what they have done in transforming that into a creative space to come and convene is just really phenomenal.
And so an artist could go in there and rent one of these studios.
Hmm.
Very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ybor is really shaking out to be something very unique. And there's a lot of people around the country that are moving right now. They're moving around from the West Coast and the Northeast, and they're looking at the Sun Belt and they're looking at the Southeast and Florida in particular.
Hmm.
And with your efforts and especially in this downtown art center and with this, hopefully this project moves forward, there's going to be a very enticing hub here for creative people to move to.
Yes. That's the inflection point that we're at because, I shared one of our advisors had helped build this in Seattle. He's born and raised in Tampa, moved to Seattle, I don't know how long ago, and ran the cultural space agency there. Matthew Richter, he's brilliant. And he has a lot of experience on how to create cultural spaces. They had an actual agency. Seattle's a very mature scene when it comes to the cross section of economics, technology, and arts. And so we've been kind of just looking and following in those footsteps.
Hmm.
There is a lot of intrinsic worth for developers to look at the arts. It's not just about entertainment. Entertainment's important, but literally, when you begin to incorporate arts and nonprofits into your developments, you unlock permitting options. You can leverage philanthropy. You have increased walkability scores, like 20% increase in surrounding spaces and rent. 50% more likely for having outdoor seating permits for your bars and restaurants. Like there is so much that's unlocked when you specifically create cultural spaces. And so when you look at the promising developments within Tampa Bay, we're at our infancy with this.
Mm.
That's a very fully formed market that we can look at and mimic and grow with. But we are at the infancy of having, these are just a snapshot of some of the really cool things happening around the Bay. In St. Petersburg, you have the Warehouse Arts District, completely artist-owned, artist-led, which is amazing. They actually own the property. And 28 affordable working studios, gallery space, meeting space, the whole nine. You've got our downtown art center, which is going to be an energizing hub for really distributing that density out into all these spaces. Crest Contemporary with their artist studios, their galleries, their theaters, with just the energy that they're constantly putting out. It's a huge economic stimulus. Zero empty spaces is a very cool concept.
Mm.
It's a couple gentlemen. They are all over the nation, but they tested this market in St. Pete. They're wanting to come over to Tampa now, but they do temporary leases in commercial spaces to really utilize. And they bring in artists, they bring in mixologists, test kitchens, and they make sure that you don't have empty spaces. It's a phenomenal model.
Is this it? ZeroEmptySpaces.com.
Yep.
Very, very cool. So they will go into a landlord that, for whatever reason might have trouble renting a space, or they're waiting, for a reason to rent it and they've got 6 months, and
Mm-hmm.
you can call these guys and they will put in, I guess, what do they have here? Retail, mixology, culinary, artist spaces. Really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Activation.
Yeah.
It all goes back to the activation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And when you look at a place, because you've been in Tampa, I think you mentioned about 30 years, something like
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah. Wink, wink.
Since I
So,
was born.
yeah. So it's
Not
so
really.
when you look at the city, though, it's like, you look at the past pictures of the city, or any city for that matter. They were gutted through urban renewal, and now you're left with these parking lots and vacant commercial buildings, right? But you also have this incredible demand to live in the cities.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you got to go from A to B. A to B is not overnight. You can't just develop everything tomorrow,
Right.
right? So this is Zero Empty Spaces seems like a good in-between point to get some action going, to where when people visit here to consider moving their business or themselves or their family or whatever, they're like, this is active. There's people out, there's art happening.
And you can see, and it's also a great entry point for artists who may not have experience being full-on tenants,
Mm.
to be able to get a taste of what it's like to be a tenant, what their responsibilities are, and understanding, for a lot of these places, they don't necessarily have camp fees or full market value rents that usually are more affordable or attainable, but they start to get an understanding of what that looks like to have that on their line item, to have a rent. And can they actually handle that? So when they enter into something short term, maybe with an aspiration, they can say, oh, okay, this is more than I thought. Or maybe I can handle more. This is easier than I thought.
And so Tampa Arts Alliance is it almost set up like a chamber of commerce, where Zero Empty Spaces, for example, would go to you, and then you guys have the relationship with the elected officials and some business owners that you can connect them with. Is that kind of how that works?
That's the aspiration. We're a small group right now. So mainly it's get an email. Definitely, here's who you should go talk to. Here's what's here. We're cheering you on. Let's meet this person, or let's meet that person. We do a lot of convening. We also have salons, artist salons, where we bring together either cross section. We helped Urban Land Institute develop their Art in Place program, and bringing together a lot of different. We did an event at Tampa Museum of Art where we brought together developers and artists so that we can have those conversations. We do this efficiently because we are so short-staffed right now. We bring people together so that they can take that and run with it.
Mm.
And they do. And that's one of the things I love about this area is that nobody is waiting for somebody to do something. They get an idea and they run with it. And so there isn't a lot of hand holding that needs to happen. It's like, okay, you're in a room together, go for it. And it happens. It happens.
Creative magic.
Yeah. The work that was done at Crest Contemporary and then continues to go on there was leaders who took the opportunity and ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
Other stories, promising developments. You have Fairgrounds and the Factory in St. Pete, immersive art exhibit that is so cool. It mimics, or it's very similar to Meow Wolf in Denver. These really cool environments that you just step into, and there's just all of this art, and you feel it, and you taste it, you smell it. It's just all around you. It's
What's the name of it?
Fairgrounds.
Fairgrounds in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, that's formed by Liz Dimmitt of Dimmitt Chevrolet, and she and her team have created something really fantastic. And I mean, look.
Wow. Yeah.
It's
Enough
really,
said.
really cool.
Look at this. Yeah.
Yeah.
For people just listening, it's just really cool. I'm assuming a large building with all these different colorful exhibits.
Yeah.
It looks like you just walk through and witness. Wow.
Yeah.
Trippy for sure.
It's very, very cool. And then if you scroll up, she just recently had Lucy Sparrow back, and she worked with Water Street to bring Lucy. Remember that?
I do remember that.
The grocery store?
Yes.
She's lovely. And we were very privileged to receive a huge donation from that exhibit.
So that's a great example of a temporary space that can be activated for something really, really cool.
Yes.
And there's no doubt that that had an effect on the people living and working in Water Street. They probably thought, dang, this is a cool community to be a part of, right? You know, the same thing is true with these markets you see all around the region. St. Pete has a great market, Hyde Park Village and Water Street and Ybor, all these markets where people can go to and bring their little goods and artists, but also, you know,
Honey makers.
Yeah, honey maker,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. Like that's what makes a neighborhood complete, is where people can gather together and share their services with one another and their goods. And
Yes.
it forms a very, very strong community.
And really great developers get that. So one of my favorite development groups, I don't think they get their flowers quite as much, is Tampa Housing Authority. They are always at the leading edge because they work very closely with the community and building relationships with people and trust. And Meacham Urban Market is a fantastic example of an activation that is on a micro level, but has a phenomenal impact and has created a lot more of similar urban farms, has inspired a lot more urban farms within the footprint. But there are makers who are at that location who make fermented goods or sourdough bread or honey, and all of those little microeconomies, they very much add up. There is a florist who got their start there, who is, being able to scale their work because of the ability they had to go into the smaller space and test something. So it's the same kind of model that we really want to have more of in the arts, and they're very synergistic. Really, we do things all the time with these spaces, but these little opportunities to test out and see, what's possible. It's really important.
Shout out Leroy Moore with the Housing Authority. He was on the show. He did a great job of explaining why these developments are built the way they are. Because I had questions about like, well, why isn't there more, activation on the ground floor and this and that? And he did a good job of basically saying, we are ambitious enough to push this thing as far as we can, but the realities of the economic factors, it's public dollars, and there's a lot of rules and regulations regarding these types of housing. And I left the conversation thinking, wow, they get it, and they're really, really doing what they can to make cool public housing, basically.
Yeah.
And places where people want to be. and enabling the people that live there to have a chance at starting businesses and the commercial space they offer.
Yeah.
And then the new development, so they've done Encore, right?
Mhm.
Meacham Urban Farm is awesome. For those that haven't gone, you got to check it out. And that deal was done through creativity, right? I think that was supposed to be they were at Cafe Con Tampa last week, right? You were there,
Oh, I
weren't you? Didn't
wasn't.
I see
No, I
you?
was
Oh, I thought you were there. You were always there. Maybe
I'm
that's why I'm
always
thinking.
there. I love Cafe Con Tampa.
But me too. But they Meacham was giving a presentation and they were talking about that deal, so to speak. And when Leroy was on the show, he talked about it too. But yeah, that was very creative. It's school board property that was traded from the housing authority. They were going to build an elementary school. They're not going to do it tomorrow. Hey, we've got 2 to 5 years of vacant land. Boom, let's do this urban farm. Like, what a cool and creative way to utilize
Yeah.
space in a downtown.
I think that's our theme today, isn't it? It's about utilizing these spaces.
Hmm.
And that's very much Tampa's power. And there was a time, you remember, like in the 90s, especially, we were always trying to be the next Austin, the next New Orleans, the next whatever. And I think what's beginning to happen is that we're finally stopping comparing and trying to be the next and turning inward and being like, what do we got that's going on that's really cool? And how do we love on that and build that up? And that is our appeal factor more than anything, is
Mm,
because we have so much here. When we quit trying to be like everybody else, we can take care of what we have and build it up.
that's a great point. So many people attribute our growth to other markets, but why do we have to move towards another market? Why can't we express what we already have?
Mhm.
The new thing is Tampa's the next Miami. I'm sure you've seen that everywhere. But every time I hear that, I go, I don't want to be the next
No.
Miami. If you visited Miami, it is so different from our culture here and the pacing and just
Yes.
the way we do business, everything about it. I would never want to live in Miami. It's fun to visit. I'll go visit for a few days. It's
Right.
it's a it's a great place, no
Yeah.
doubt. But I don't want Tampa to turn into Miami. If that's not what I hope for.
We're too charming. The pace is a really good point. And in some ways, it can be stymieing because things take longer. But there's something very sustainable about the pace that we do have. And I think that's one of the reasons why we weathered the pandemic so well.
Mm,
In when other markets where their real estate was crashing, their occupancy in their downtown still hasn't improved. The social unrest was 10 times greater. We have things to work on here for sure. But overall, it was the Shire of the pandemic.
it's true.
We could go
Plus, we
outside.
had Tom Brady,
Yes.
Lightning
Throwing,
Championship. I
yeah, on the
mean,
riverboat parade. I
yeah.
mean, it was, if all the places you could be, it was just the most lovely place to have been during something so traumatic.
It feels like that today, except for it's like negative 25 degrees outside. It's so freezing. Isn't it crazy? Like last week was super cold, then it was 80, and now it's back to the freezing temperatures. Gasparilla is this weekend. I'm going to have to layer up. That's another thing with arts and culture, though. Let's be real. Like the fact that we have this very unique sort of season it's turned into.
Yeah.
I mean, the Gasparilla Arts Festival, they've got the music, the half marathon, which David and I are very reluctantly signed up for.
Oh, that's amazing. Well done.
David's like, I don't even need to practice, dude. I'm just going to show up and run it. I'm like, all right, good for you. Good for you.
It is a whole season and it's uniquely Tampa. It doesn't make sense. I was trying to explain this to the Brits last week and they're like, what's this thing with the pirate? And I'm just like, you have to experience it. But speaking of, artists who've gone away, there's a dancer who grew up and went to Blake, went off to New York, did her thing, and is now interested back in Tampa and in building an immersive art exhibit, an immersive art experience, a dance experience around the lore of Jose Gaspar. So, there is, and the reason why that's even a thought is because we've been working so hard to create the conditions for something like that to take hold here.
Mm.
And it's been a collective work for decades from a lot of different people to create the conditions for doing some really cool stuff that you would see in New York or Miami or whatever. So yeah, we're attracting back a lot of that talent.
So I've said on the show before, whenever I visit a different city or a different country or even a different state, whatever, I love to enjoy the food and the culture and find out kind of what the locals love about their community. And I think when people move anywhere, if you're going to commit and you're going to move somewhere, you want to learn those stories and be a part of that culture. And anything we can do to express those stories, like it should, like the story of Jose Gaspar shouldn't be really a hidden thing. This new group that is doing this dance, what did you say it was? Like a show, basically.
Yeah.
That's really important because there's a lot of people that have moved here in the last 5 years that know you drink some rum and stumble around dressed like a pirate. Okay, but what is the underlining kind of meaning and story behind all that? I think people would be really fascinated to know if you've moved here in the last 5 years and you don't know that. We do these little history social media posts with Max Herman of Ybor City Walking Tours, and he does such a fantastic job of these little snippets of history, and people in our audience love it. Like our audience, I would say is, I would say real estate and growth oriented, right? Tampa Bay developer is the name of it, but yet we can put up a cool little 90-second video on history and it gets more views than anything. People love a story, so
Yeah.
those people reached out to me. I was reading a little bit about what they're doing. Are you involved in helping them achieve what they're trying to achieve?
I was initially on their founding board, but I am so focused on getting this downtown center off the
Sure.
board. I've had to step back. But yes, and some of the history is real and some of it's imagined. So I don't know the full history of Jose Gaspar and whether he was a cool dude or not. I don't know all
Well,
that
or even if he existed.
or
I
even
don't, yeah.
existed, but it is so much a part of Tampa lore. It deserves to have this next level of attention and creativity around it. I mean, it's very distinctly Tampa. I'm part of the committee that's choosing sculpture works to go into Tampa Heights and the roundabouts through the Tampa CRA. And I was researching the area, especially for Tampa Heights. It's really important for me to grasp like the full picture of the area. And I was trying to find more information on ukulele and the whole, indigenous people here. And I couldn't figure out if she was real or not. Like, so there's so much lore that's here, but it's still like whenever I go to Eulalie and see that sculpture that Mr. Gonsmart commissioned, I just love it. I love taking people there. I love bringing them to the spring. So, some of it is created and that's okay.
It's totally okay. And
Storytelling.
you see that, I think, all over the country, really. Like there's a place I used to go to as a kid, Blowing Rock, North Carolina. Have you
Mm.
heard of it?
No.
It's kind of near Boone, North Carolina, up in the high country. And the story goes, it's called Blowing Rock because there were these two Native American lovers, and one of them stepped off of a rock and was like taken by the wind back up and landed on the rock next to her lover or something like that. And then I think Eulalie's story is, wasn't she like burned in a
Oh
fire
no.
and then she came out of the fire or something like that? Like that's what the sculpture's depicting.
I did not realize
And then
that.
you've got like Plymouth Rock. People are like, that's not the real Plymouth Rock, but they've got it kind of sectioned off up in Massachusetts or wherever in New England it is. But there's
Yeah.
these stories that are sort of half fiction that become so beloved by a community,
Yes.
and it's okay. It's like we're not probably going to ever know the story of Jose Gaspar, right? It was,
Right.
I think the story, if you could look it up, David, like he was a guy in like the 1600s who
Really?
landed somewhere, something like that, but they don't really know, I don't think they really know the actual account or if Jose Gaspar really existed. So what does it say? Spanish pirate, also known by his nickname Gasparilla, is a mythical Spanish pirate who supposedly terrorized the Gulf of Mexico from his base in Southwest Florida during Florida's second Spanish period in the mid 1700s. So it's not even, he's a mythical figure. There's a drawing from a 1900 brochure.
Well, the one that this dance group has come up with he's much hotter. So
Well, you gotta, sex it up a little bit to get people interested. There's a lot of competition with
there is. And
visuals these days, right?
so much of this stuff is allegorical too. It's characteristics I think that we kind of hold on to. So with this guy, I think characteristically Tampa it's plucky and it's kind of irreverent. And I think that's why it's embraced this lore so much, is because kind of does whatever it wants to do.
Have you seen the new NHL Stadium Series art that they're implementing here at Raymond James Stadium?
No, I have
Oh my
not.
gosh, David, just type in Raymond James NHL game. They are digging into this culture and history of our affinity with the Buccaneers, right? And Gasparilla. And so the entire outside of the ice is like pirate theme, cool, Florida. Just go to images. I was so happy to see it because I'm like, see top left, NHL.com. How cool. So as we establish ourselves as a city and a region, we can
Wow.
express these stories to the rest of the nation and the rest of the world.
You're not going to see that anywhere else.
Exactly.
It's very unique.
Yes. I was
Yeah.
really happy. Like, cool. It's not just flamingos and
Yeah.
palm trees,
And
right?
even just having an outdoor ice rink in a sunny city that was first proofed, truth tested through the Downtown Partnership and their Winter Village ice rink. And then the NHL went to them and said, well, how are you doing this? Like, how are you keeping this frozen in a sunny day in the middle of, December, January? And so they helped with that. But the biggest issue with that ice rink in downtown, it's not the sun that comes out, it's the wind that comes off the river. That's what
Oh,
melts the ice and makes it ripply. So, and here, this is much better because they're actually shielded and they're going to keep it covered until people come in, they're ready to play, but you won't have that issue of the melting ice or any of that.
so the game is this weekend. February 1st is what, Sunday, isn't it?
That's awesome.
Am I wrong? I think so. The game is this Sunday. I don't think they're going to have a problem with the cold temperature this weekend, right?
It's going to be perfect for them.
Yeah, they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
But back to the arts and the culture of a particular area. It's so nice to see. I feel like growing up in the 90s and 2000s, we were painted as a community with the Florida beach palm tree flamingo thing, and for our Tampa's, right, in Tampa Bay's sort of culture to be expressed on a national stage like that is really cool to see. And I believe the further down the road we go and express this history and culture, I think you're going to start to see TV shows, movies, books. We've had a few artists that are writing, doing their
Yes.
stories that are set here that
Yeah.
kind of implement some of the history. I think you could start to see really, really cool pieces of media come out that people in this region will really appreciate, but also people from around the country will look at it and go, I gotta go visit Tampa. I gotta go visit that area. That seems really cool.
Exactly. And it's funny because funny not funny because during the 90s and 2000s we were the punchline on 30 Rock, Amy Schumer, all the books and everything. Oh, I'm going to the Royal Academy of Arts in Tampa. You know, that character on 30 Rock, I still laugh at that line.
Mhm.
But part of that was because we hadn't come into this embracing yet of who we are. We were still very much the strip mall and trying to copy and emulate other folks. Um, when you see something like that, that's intriguing. You were like, oh, what's there?
Right.
What's going on? What's the story behind that? What's all this about? And it creates identity. It creates branding. That's what the arts do. By the way, the name of the dance group is Ghost Cat Arts. I believe that's their website for
Mm.
the Gasparilla Arts thing. I don't know if that's but you can look it up another time. Um, Being able to have that, it's really unique. But what we're also really interested in incubating here is not just the big flashy things, but for artists, like their artist studios, when you go inside Crest Contemporary and you go to these artist studios and just sit with them for an hour while they're making something. Mary Helen Horn is one of the artists there. I just love her. And she has a printmaking process that she does in this beautiful, old building with the skylight. And it's just so cool. And you sit in there and you watch her like move things through the line and carefully scrape through linoleum and make a print and then tirelessly keep doing it over and over and over again until it feels right. It does something to you. It's
Mm.
just like, wow, that's just really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool to be a part of that process. We want to incubate more of that because that's where we're filling in a lot of our culture here. And that collectively begins to create really cool things.
The economic argument is really interesting to me with this conversation. You just mentioned all of this creates branding and
Mhm.
branding is valuable.
Mhm.
Branding is the reason why the Olympics picks a particular place, right? Or the Super Bowl picks a particular place, or these other conventions pick somewhere to go. And so if we can establish that branding in a really solid way and get this nation to understand kind of who we are and what our story is, there's an economic argument to be made where that has value to it, and
Mhm.
these organizations are going to be excited to put in a bid to come here and showcase whatever it is they do. From what you've told me today, it sounds like a big part of what you do is the economics of this, right? It's like convincing the businesses and the developers, like, hey, get in on this
Yes.
arts alliance. So, what are some things that small businesses or small developers can do to be a part of this, right? I think,
Mm.
when you talk about these larger buildings or Raymond James Stadium, it's a little easier. They've got a little more money to play with, right?
Yeah.
To be creative and to implement some of the stuff. But for someone that just owns one particular property and they are a part of a cool community,
Mhm.
what can they do to help push their project or their property along and be a part of this arts and culture scene?
That's such a great question. First of all, the promising developments I put up for everybody, patronize them, go to them, visit them, spend money there, support that. So that's really, really important for stabilizing the scene because we're in again our infancy of this conversation, and so these spaces need to have visitation and support. So when it comes to smaller developers who are doing one-off projects or commercial developments, there's so many different ways to think about really the design of the space. Um, there may be a wall that you can commission an artist for a mural if that fits within your design perspective. It may be the decoration inside, working with local art collectives to decorate the interior and your walls with commissioned art or pieces that they exist. Or if you're not ready for that, you can have a rotating gallery. There's so many ways. There's artists who are eager to engage in that respect. You may want to dedicate, depending on your space, having an artist studio there, an affordable artist studio. And there's so many different kinds of mediums that
Hmm.
can be, that are not intrusive to business, but it's very inspiring to have somebody on site creating. Um, there are different groups that you can engage, like Art and Place through Urban Land Institute or Commercial Real Estate Women, where they are creating, more opportunities for artists and having more conversations in that environment that speak your language as a developer. So there's great ways to get involved with these different organizations.
The conversation between you guys and government is really important too. For instance, is a particular municipality's permitting process for murals too tight to where you kind of can't make a mural happen in your city?
Mhm.
Are there certain codes or regulations at a state level that prohibit you from doing public art? I mean, we've seen the most recent thing is FDOT coming through and painting over all of the street art in our really the whole state. But particularly in areas that I've seen, like around Roosevelt Elementary School, that little neighborhood had such a cute moment where you had these potted plants and some street art for the kids, and it was tasteful. And I don't think it disrupted the traffic flow. If anything, I think it slowed people down. But you sort of see the rub, right, between
Mhm.
government and then artists. Do you guys do work in that regard, like pitching to the state or local government, like, hey, this is why art is so important?
Yes, not formally, but in our conversations and our relationship building, it's been the best way to approach advocacy one to one
Yeah.
and building relationships that way. And it's very, very impactful. I don't know if you saw over in Pinellas, the new county commission that came through. There was one commissioner who had an axe to grind with their creative agency and creative Pinellas, and pretty much defunded it in an evening. And they're still around, and they're regrouping, and they're figuring out what's next for them. But it was a major blow to
Mm.
the whole entire region. So having these relationships and keeping forefront the data with our elected officials, with politicians, with people aspiring for office, and keeping it very non-political.
Sure.
Just keeping it to the numbers, to the impact, to the data is super, super important. So we do focus a lot on that. And that's pretty much how we run our advocacy. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very much key. I also wanted to point out, their role in and how it doesn't work without having supportive government. So we're very lucky to have an administration and council and commission who largely gets it.
Yeah.
So hallelujah. We got to keep it
Hallelujah.
that way.
Mhm.
Wanted to give kudos to your grandfather. Under his leadership, 56 was when he was 56, because he did 2 terms, right?
He did 4 terms.
4 terms. Wow.
He was mayor in I think like 1969 to
Yeah.
74 for two terms, and then
Yeah.
he was mayor again when I was a little kid from like 1995 to 2003.
Yeah. Well, a lot happened under him that really set a good foundation for the arts. But one of the really cool things that has made a huge impact was under him, Renee Vaughn, who is married to Dr. Vaughn, who's another gem of a developer. Just a side note, Dr. Vaughn from University of Tampa, he built 70 buildings, 70,
Wow.
funded them privately through his team. Keith Todd, amazing. They built pretty much a city of infrastructure for these students. And then he and his wife also kitted out all the private spaces of UT with really great art collections. They would go into galleries and buy up whole collections of artists, 50 to 60 pieces at a time, to put into the dorms and into the common areas that people in the public don't even really get to see, but it was for the benefit of the students to be exposed to that.
Mm-hmm.
But Renee, when she worked under your grandfather, she implemented the 1% set aside, the public art tax that we have. So it's not really a tax, it's a set aside. It's a little bit less than 1%, but every development in downtown and in Channel District, the value about, I think it's like 0.75%, the value of their development has to go to public art.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So either they can create the art themselves for their development, or they put it into a fund, which is managed by the city, Robin Nye and her group, and then they collectively pull that fund and put in really big pieces of art. The next couple are coming up at the convention center, some really state-of-the-art
Is that public yet?
installations.
Could we see some of those installations, David, if you want to try to Google that? What
I don't know they're
examples
public yet.
what examples from that fund would we know?
Geez.
You could
So
probably Google it, right, David?
outside Perry Harvey Park, the installation with the musicians,
right.
a lot of the work within Perry Harvey Park, the Wave on Bayshore. There's 800 pieces of public art in Tampa that they manage. It's a 2-person team.
That's
they manage
amazing.
that.
Oh, maybe that's so. I remember when I was a little kid, they started really revitalizing Bayshore Boulevard, and they did sculptures, and there's
Yes.
I
All of
used to
that.
call them the zebras, those zebras over
Yes.
there, and there's the
Yeah.
really interesting
The
curve,
Linky
right?
thing, yeah.
The exploding chicken.
I
I
know.
wonder if
I
that's a
wanted
part
to
of it.
I wanted to bring that up, but that artist hates that name because that's not the real name of it, and I couldn't remember the name. But that is such a fantastic piece of public art, and yes, that was born.
Don't you look? Well, first of all, let's shout out the artist. Do you know the name of the artist? Maybe
Not
David could pull
offhand.
it up. But
Yeah.
in I'm not an artist. I don't know if this is considered art, what we do here today on the show.
I
Maybe
think so.
slightly, but I would imagine when people give a name like that to your piece of art, it could definitely make you upset. But at the same time, don't you kind of have to appreciate people's at least affection for what you've created and have given it a name? I think it's
I think
like
so.
I call it the exploding chicken, but if someone came out and was like, let's scrap it, I'd be like, hell no, right? Like
Right.
I would be in defense.
That's my exploding chicken.
Yes, right, exactly.
Yeah.
So public art fund, really, really interesting.
Yeah. So there's a significant, I think it's something like 1.2 million a year that goes into that.
Wow.
It caps out at, I think, 100,000 a development, but it's a significant fund. And then there have been interests from other developers wanting to expand that into their developments. But that's that's one of these vehicles that ensures that we have a public art conversation outside of the private collections and having to
Mhm.
fund it. And then we got gifted a Botero from Perez, Mr. Perez from Related Group, Colombian Botero. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. The voluptuous
Yes.
lady that's on Bayshore outside the Ritz, that was gifted to Tampa Museum of Art. It's a
Type that
million
in.
dollar sculpture.
I was gonna say, isn't that worth an incredible amount of money? It's a
Incredible.
$1,000,000 sculpture,
Hmm.
and it's right there for everyone to enjoy on Bayshore. Yeah, where the
Yep.
Ritz-Carlton is, David, on Bayshore Boulevard, if you know where that is.
And then it's going to come over
Right south of Beta Bay.
into the urban core soon.
Oh, is it? They're
Yeah.
gonna move it?
Yeah, it was gifted to the Tampa Museum of Art, I believe.
And so they're gonna move it over by the Museum of Art?
I think so. Or maybe it's
Cool.
another one, but it's a big deal to have a Botero in our city.
You know,
Um,
we've got some massive, huge projects that are gonna really be a tipping point in this entire conversation. The
mhm.
Tampa Museum of Art, $27,000,000, I believe. Uh,
$120 million.
$120,000,000. Maybe the
Hmm.
first phase was 27,000,000, I'm
Yeah,
thinking of, something like that.
yeah,
But sort of a game changer to that waterfront. All new,
absolutely.
park amenities, expansions. Then you've got the Straz Center
Yes.
undergoing their expansion.
Another $88 million expansion, which is why I feel very confident in our $1 million campaign for the Downtown Arts Center because the community has demonstrated capacity and interest in investing in the arts. Another 20 million went into the Tampa Theater. Isn't she lovely? Um,
What does she have a name? The Botero is the name of
is the
the
artist?
artist.
I think it's the Maiden.
The
I don't
Maiden.
know.
That's
Maybe David
$1,000,000.
can. Yeah.
Wow. Really interesting.
And the whole dynamic of the art scene is very interesting too. That's really what I'm diving into and learning more about the valuations of things.
Mm.
Because within the arts world, there's also a hierarchy of collection and what values is being collectible. So we have a handful of established artists visually in Tampa who are able to command top dollar for their work, which is really fascinating to learn from them and to get other artists exposure. But for the most part, our ecosystem within Tampa is an emerging art scene or mid career scene, meaning that they haven't made it to being able to charge $1 million or even a quarter of that for their work. And so there's this impetus that we have to kind of help move them through that system and to find what it takes. I mean, it's so much work to be an artist, to channel all this stuff through you and create something. And then on top of that, needed to do all your marketing,
Mm.
your business setup. It's a hustle. And I've spent time in my career with some world renowned artists who are making 500,000 to 1 million a year from their work. And let me tell you, I just spent time with a friend of mine who's 70 something and is still working 110 hours a week.
Wow.
And he loves it. He wouldn't do anything different.
I was gonna say, probably doing what he loves.
Hmm. And his paintings, I mean, he's been profiled by BBC. His paintings go for, minimum of 50 to 200,000 each. But it took a lifetime of work to get to that point.
Is the vision, I think you said the Tampa Arts Alliance is about 5 years old,
Hmm.
correct? So is the vision to one day sort of become this artist incubator, almost like Tampa Bay Wave, right? Where artists
Mm.
could come in and learn how do you capitalize on the art you make. So instead of doing it for 4 hours on the weekend, you can make a career out of your creation.
Hmm. That's going to have to be organically created by the community is going to have to inform us which way we go. Initially, we had that thought of like, okay, let's put some programming out there for helping artists to market themselves and to
Mhm.
figure out how to make a living from their art. But then we realized as we got into that, there's a lot of people who just want the joy of creating art and they just want to be seen more. That some don't want to have any tie to the income or whatever. So it's really something that needs to be informed by the ecosystem. But what we have found is there's a definite need to be seen. There's definite interest in that. And
Mm.
that's why we're focusing all of our focus on the downtown center because now you're going to have this beautiful space to be seen not only for their resume and for their own credentials, but to have that experience of what it takes to be in a space like that. It's a near museum kind of like quality space that we're designing. It's not like some pop-up, which are also very important, but this is a totally different level for some artists to get the experience of what it's like to get into a space like that. And to incubate that maturity is, I think, where we're at right now. And then the colleges and the universities are doing a great job with stewarding that talent along as well.
So if you're an artist that wants to get in this downtown space, how can they do that?
We're still working that out.
But presumably they would send you guys an email and say, "Hey, I'm an artist. I'm
We'll have a
interested."
curator and then we'll have a committee and then we'll decide that way.
Got it.
Yeah. I
And
mean, the
what's
best way to get involved is to become a member because our members always get, first access to anything that we do. Um,
here it is.
yeah,
Artist membership for an individual,
super accessible.
$50 a year or $5 a month.
Yeah,
And you've got mention in the public newsletter, all these different things that it comes with. And so
yeah,
that's sort of the first step at getting involved.
that's the first step. And then we'll have committees and curation. And the whole point of this is to funnel out more activity into the city. So this is going to be a starting point, and we're going to give visibility as much as we can to everybody that's here. Again, not just in the 2D and 3D art, but also in literary, also in film, also in performing. It's a lot. So we're going to have to figure out how to do all of that, but we're up for it.
And such an incredible location
I
too.
know. I know.
Impossible to ignore.
Impossible.
So go to Street View on that building. Doesn't that have reflective glass? Because in my
Mhm.
head, I'm like, I want to make sure when people walk by, they can see the inside, right? Those big, beautiful windows.
At night, you can.
At night, you can.
There is a glaze on the whole entire building, which we are not allowed to dissolve.
Dang it.
Explored that. So we're going to be creative.
You're way ahead of me. That's probably the first thing you thought of is how do we get, yeah.
Yeah.
So that can't be solved. You can't just take the glazing off. I
No,
guess you
but
could.
at
It might be
night, no,
expensive.
we try. We had that conversation. They're like, no, you're not touching the glazing for, $30 million, $200 million building. But we're going to be creative about our signage and really, honestly, a lot of that traffic that's coming through at night. When we turn the art, because there are going to be huge movable panels, when we turn the art to face and you have that well lit, it's just a showpiece that you can see from anywhere around.
Right.
Even now, I turn the lights on at night. The way you can just see through it's like, wow, it's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
What a moment. And
Yeah.
that one-way street, that's Tampa Street, right?
Kennedy this way and then
Southbound.
Tampa right there.
So you'll be able to witness that as you drive by in a really, really apparent fashion. Yeah. Because curiosity, I think, is important. People are going to
Mhm.
see this and be like, dang, what's that? And
Yeah.
you said there's going to be like a cool something outside, like a sign of some sort you'll do.
We'll figure out some really good signage. Rob and I from the city of Tampa had this really cool idea about actually illuminating the sidewalk with like video installation. So we can get creative and we'll get with the city and see what parameters we have to follow. Of course, there's what do they call that? A tombstone listing that we'll be on. But we'll get creative with it. Maybe do
Well,
some video.
like you said, the local governments are mostly in favor of arts. They really do see the value. So whatever they'll
Yeah.
let you do it, man. What an opportunity. And congratulations on securing this. What a street
Thank you.
corner.
Yeah.
Totally. I want to take it back to your roundabout art
Yeah.
conversation. So Linda Salsina put out an article maybe 10 years ago, it was a long time ago, about the crab, like a deviled crab, a blue crab, I think
Right.
it was, on the roundabout where in Tampa Heights on Boulevard, the Boulevard roundabout, right north of the bridge. And then there's been several other ideas. You mentioned ukulele. So is anything set in stone yet for those roundabouts?
Not yet. We just had our first meeting last month to go through all of the responses to the RFP. I think there was 140 people. So we went through every single artist and every single submission to get a sense of their work and then see like who we think could fit and do really good work. And then once we get through that, then the next step is to select artists and then give them further parameters and further research for them to come up with their concepts. So the blue crab is one of the concepts that they may want to look into. There's other, history about Tampa Heights they may want to incorporate in designs. And I believe they get an honorarium as well. So they get paid for producing some. That's phase two. And then phase three is actually picking the art. So it's a month long process.
And who's the decision makers on that? CRA board?
That's a good question because this is funded through the Tampa CRA. Uh, so I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know if the committee is the decision maker on it, or I don't know if the CRA board has a final say. I'm just kind of
Committee
like
being
a
who?
worker bee in the middle somewhere.
Committee being what committee?
We have a committee of there's 4 of us who are reviewing all the submissions to narrow
And you're on
down.
the committee.
Hmm.
Fantastic. And
It's
so
really fun.
what qualifications are you emphasizing? Is it purely aesthetic, or do they have to incorporate history of the area?
Experience. They have a budget, first of all, so they have to know if they can stay within the budget. But experience, materials, scale. Have they done something to scale? Are they
Mm,
able to work with the transit authorities to make sure that this is appropriate for a roundabout? Because you can't got to be able to like kind of see through it. You can't have
right.
anything like. There was one design that was really fascinating. It was literally all these fenders that were stuck together in this piece of art, and I was like, oh, that's the last thing you want to see when you're driving.
Fenders everywhere. Yeah, like some
you know. Um,
car wreck.
Yeah, so those kinds of things are the first step to make sure, like, do they have any experience in doing something to scale and working with materials that can last in our weather?
It's a
Um,
great idea to have art installations on those two roundabouts. David, pull up the map real quick. Sorry, I'm like
mhm.
working you overtime today, David, with these Google. So Google Map Armature Works area. There's two roundabouts. One's on the east side, one's on the west side. You should be able to
Mhm.
find it in 2 seconds. Go north, right there. Bang, bang on Palm Avenue. So, what an opportunity
Yeah.
to do something really, really cool in a development that will, who knows how many years. I know it's taken a while to get where we're at, but this will be a very intense development here. You're going to have a
Mhm.
mix of uses, apartments and retail. Of course, you have Armature Works, you have the Riverwalks kind of northern terminus, tons of homes that people are paying million and a half or more money for. So you have a lot of growth that we know is coming. And what a perfect opportunity right here on the screen with these two roundabouts in the center of it all to have some cool art,
Yes.
especially art that could speak to the history of the area.
Yes.
Like the crab would be really interesting, right? All the
Mhm.
crabbers used to get set up on the river right here and sell the blue crab meat and make deviled crab. That'd be kind of interesting. Doesn't have to be that, of course, but yeah, a good opportunity to do something that speaks to that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And if you look now, like do the street view on that's Highland and Palm Avenue, where the roundabout is. You look other one, they're both I think kind of relatively the same, but when you look at it, it looks like a blank canvas,
It is.
you know.
It's really exciting.
And so you reviewed 100 and how many?
140 applications.
Wow.
Yep.
I mean, you talked about the fenders, but any other ones that have blown your mind?
Yeah, there was a couple who had extensive experience. One of the artists I think was based out of Miami. Really interesting pieces, but honestly, we had just I think 4 hours to go through everything, so we had to kind of go at a quick clip, and it was more so instinctively to say, okay, they don't have the experience we need. They could potentially, they no, so it was a very quick clip. We won't really get to see what they can do until this next round.
Understood. So
Yeah.
this was the first round of evaluating the artist and their
Yeah.
capability.
Exactly.
Then
Very
will come the actual design of what they
definitely.
want to do.
It's a lot of pressure because I mean, this is my neighborhood. Um,
You don't want to be looking at
I
something
don't want
too
Linda
crazy.
calling me upset. But it's also really exciting to be a part of this. And then the CRAs, they're also doing they have an active call right now for a monument to go at Tampa Union Station that commemorates World War II, the soldiers that came back home and some who didn't. And the monument is commemoration of that. Um, I think Bill Carlson's leading the effort or called for that. And then Mr. Vieira, Councilman Vieira, is having another a beautiful sculpture that's being made in Waterworks to commemorate a fallen police lieutenant. So we've got council people who are really looking at ways to incorporate art into our projects, into our public spaces, which is, we're so lucky to have that.
And where would the installation go at Tampa Union Station?
I don't know exactly, because when I talked with the administrator, they were saying that, there's Amtrak rules as to where you can actually put a piece of art and how close to the railings you can get. So I don't know exactly where it's going to go in there, but I'm sure it's going to be, I mean, that place has so much potential.
Oh, yeah.
It's really phenomenal.
Okay, so Exploding Chicken was sculpted by George Sugarman. He built the
Yes,
landmark
Sugarman.
for downtown Tampa Bank in 1985. Shout out George Sugarman. Yeah.
Yes. What's the name
I
of the
had to
piece?
find him. Um
Yeah.
the funny enough, the only thing I can find is the Exploding Chicken.
It is definitely an affectionate thing.
They just have it listed on Google as the George Sugarman sculpture.
Yeah. I mean, it's fantastic.
Maybe that's why he's pissed, because it's named after him. It's the George Sugarman sculpture, and people call it the Exploding Chicken.
Oh,
Exploding Chicken may be given to Tampa. City of Tampa may get. Yeah. Huh.
It's it's abstract enough that it's not super literal. It weathers, it weathers well in our climate. It's got a good scale to it. It doesn't block visibility. It's just a really great work to have in a roundabout.
And at this point, it's iconic for Tampa. It really is.
And it fits in with all of our little, chickens and everything else.
But great example of, now this was moved. This was over by the beer can building, wasn't it? From what I remember. And they moved it over into Channelside. But a great example of a piece on a roundabout, So in a similar way, this is where you could get a piece in Tampa Heights. And I believe they're redoing the intersection where the Platt Street Bridge on the west side of the river. I don't know. I don't think they're doing a roundabout. David, could you pull up real quick the type in Haskell, Heskell, Riverwalk, Tampa. I believe that's the firm who's building, or they might be the engineer on the Riverwalk, but they might be spearheading it. So go to that picture. So if you could zoom in on the roundabout, David, they might have a different photo of it, but they're doing a street art. Scroll down, David, right here. And it's the city seal. Now this is conceptual. I don't think this is approved or anything like that. But this is a really, really important intersection, right? Like this is the gateway, literally the gateway, the bridge into downtown. And what an opportunity to do something cool. Whether it was the city seal, like they have depicted here, or a pirate ship or whatever it may be. But anytime there's an infrastructure project that is in a defining space like this particular intersection or those roundabouts in Tampa Heights, it kind of makes sense. You would think about art, right? When you build these things, it's like
now it makes sense.
Yeah. Create something cool where it's a gateway, some sort of a feature, like the arch in Ybor City, right? That's so cool to see and to go under on 7th Avenue.
It frames a space. It's like, oh, you're entering into something.
Yeah.
I love Circles Unity, which is the circles, the lighted circles are underneath the bridge. Is it Borrowing Bridge? Going into Channel District, from Publix down to Marriott. And there's it's called Circles Unity, and it's these huge lighted circles that illuminate as you go through the bridge. Very, very simple art installation. Simple in the sense that it's not distracting. But the way that it's enlivened the space and that's a public art piece from the city of Tampa that was funded by that fund.
Wow.
It just shifted the whole entire experience. You feel safer walking through there.
100%.
It's unique. It makes you feel like you're entering into something. Oh, you're getting ready to enter into Water Street,
Yeah, Street View, that underpass there, that's under the convention center. It's actually the same intersection that I'm talking about, right over the Platt Street Bridge. But gosh, I remember going through there before that was installed. It was a little sketchy. Like it felt like a tunnel. It had the old lighting in there. Yeah, right behind you. Oh
old
my gosh,
flickering lighting.
you're somehow inside the convention center. Channel Side Drive. Just go to the bridge, David, and scoot us through. But you're right. Now you walk through and it's, it's busy. There's people honking. You're downtown. There's a lot of energy, but it's a lot more tasteful going through there. That's
Yeah,
the whole
there's
point.
intention.
And again, like you said, it's not crazy,
Mhm.
it's just this little moment as you go through.
Yeah,
Yeah, it makes the experience a lot better.
yeah,
Duh, right? Things of beauty make you feel better.
yeah. And so our goal, honestly, is get to the point where we don't think of this as the arts or some separate thing. It's just how we live. When we have a get together, when we have an event, when we have a convention, we've got live music, we've got a live poet, we've got dancers coming in, we've got food, like really good, intentional, well designed culinary art. Um, that's what we're building.
Mm, can't wait to check it out. What's your time frame on it?
Oh, so the Downtown Arts Center, hopefully we start in May and we should be done. Actually, we start before May in April and we should be done by late summer, early fall 2026.
Fantastic. So you guys are going to get very busy here in the next few months.
Yes.
Super exciting.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about one more thing since you went to UT and you brought up UT and all the art and everything. And when you drive through that campus, you really go, wow,
Yeah.
that new field, the large green space in the middle with the bell sculpture.
Yeah. So that's the Ars Sonora. So Dr. Vaughn and Mrs. Vaughn, they travel to France. That's only one of two of those kinds of they went to the original bell maker. Like,
Wow.
and they commissioned this design, and I forgot who was the underwriter. Of course, wonderful Tampa connections and support that they cultivated over the years. But look at how gorgeous that is.
Yeah, look at that.
I wrote a whole love letter to them in the UT journal. It was like 10 pages long, because I felt it, and I've always felt that with them as a couple. They're just so loving to their students. And they think of all these little details. But the way that which they created these art details throughout every aspect of the campus. So when he retired this last year, we did like a special piece in the UT journal. But they're hurricane proof, so that won't blow down
That's
through
good.
a Cat 5. Because they're like massively. There's tons and tons of metal. But it's not something you see every day. I think there's only like 2 of that scale in the world.
It's basically this huge bell tower, right?
Mhm.
But it's not your traditional bell tower. It's very contemporary looking.
Yeah.
Look how cool that is with the fountain in the middle. It's awesome.
And the thing that's really cool about this is that as high as you see it above, it goes as deep below foundationally to keep it strong.
Whoa.
Like so much intention and design and and it's right next to the chapel. And for the students to have this beautiful sacred space to
Look at
just
that.
kind of go and reflect. And when things get crazy, it's just a very
Lit up at night is unbelievable. The way the bell, like those are real church bells, so to
yeah.
speak. I mean, those are like shiny, real bells. You said that this piece is from France?
Yeah. It's massive.
Wow. Do
Yeah.
you know, did they ship it over here or did they build
Yeah.
it?
No, they did it in pieces, and there's a special organ that's connected to it. And there's very few people that know how to play the bell system, but they can do whole pieces and concerts with this bell system. They all play in different ways. And there's a very special organ with like
A keyboard of some sort, I would assume.
that works the
It's a
bells.
giant instrument.
The giant instrument. It's
That's
a working
so crazy.
instrument.
So it's not like a sculpture with a speaker system. Like that's a
Mm-mm.
real instrument with
It's
all
a
these different
real
bells.
deal.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Stuff like that and stories like that, again, we've said it a bunch of times on the show, but they really are so important for placemaking. And it's great to
Yes.
see almost every development, all the developers we've had on the show, the large scale developers, Water Street, all that sort of stuff, they get it.
Mhm. They do.
They get why they have the responsibility when they're creating something so large. You talk about Water Street, 40 plus acres, gas. I mean, these are large scale moments in a city. And these people understand that the reason why they can get people to come to their developments is because they include cool stuff like this. I
Yeah.
guarantee the University of Tampa isn't doing it because it looks cool. They're doing it because, hey, this is a benefit to the students and the
Yes.
faculty.
And it's open to the public. They have concerts all the time. The Furman Center for the Arts, they have a concert coming up on February 7th that's open to the public. They do a tremendous amount of programming. I can't wait to work with them to help program our space. We're going to be working with USF similarly as well. It's amazing. And when you think about, though, with policy, that policy that your grandfather's administration put in place, it was bucked at first, very strong.
Uh,
Like nobody wanted to pay an extra 1% for public art because that wasn't the norm. But that's what began to train people. It trained our taste because when you started seeing public art popped up, we craved more. And
right,
now it's a best practice.
right.
So that's why we have to work hand in hand with our lawmakers, because sometimes in order to get change, to move things forward, it has to be codified, it has to be implemented, and then people catch up.
Amazing. Michele Smith, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun.
I think it's such a relevant conversation. You know, you said it best. You know, we have our own identity to explore here.
Hmm.
And so you guys have a lot of stuff coming up, and this new downtown art center is going to be a game changer for everything we've talked about today. And so for people wanting to follow you guys along or even become a member, what's the best way they can do that?
Visit our TampaArtsAlliance.org. Definitely become a member. If you're thrilled about the center, go to TampaArtsAlliance.org/the center and be a part of that. We're really excited about how that's coming together. Follow along with our newsletter. Keep an eye out for us in the media. We're around.
Beautiful. And I look forward to the opening up. So it'll open this summer, you said, right?
Yeah, come take a tour.
Beautiful. Amazing. Thank you again for coming on.
Thanks.
All right. Bye, everybody. See you next week.